Hello, this is Political Forum for Wednesday, November 13th. Today we welcome Cook County Assessor Fritz Kaegi as our guest, and thank you for appearing on Political Forum. I'm Carolyn Day, a board member here at CAN TV, and welcome.
Well, so happy to be here, Carol.
Thanks. Thank you. So, I understand that you've been very busy.
Yes, we've been in office for almost a year. It's gone by very quickly. We've done a lot. We're really proud of the things that we've done, and we're going to close out the year with even more.
Wonderful, wonderful. Well, as the Cook County Assessor, why don't you begin explaining to the audience what the Cook County Assessor does?
Sure. So the Cook County Assessor is part of our overall property tax system, but we don't actually do the taxes ourselves. What the city, Chicago Public School, and and the county and taxing bodies do is they decide how much money they need to raise each year. That's called a levy. It's about $15 billion in Cook County. In the assessor's office, we divide up that total bill amongst all of us who own property in Cook County according to the market value of it. So we're really the office that's about equity, about splitting up that big piece of pie that was baked by those taxing bodies that no one wants to eat, and we're supposed to divide it equitably amongst us all.
Very good. So there's been a feeling among Chicagoans for the past several years that property assessments have been really high. And can you say why that is?
Well, sure. And I'd say, just in your question, this is something that we get a lot. And people confuse assessments with property taxes. So they say that assessments are high, but actually, if you look at the numerical amount of assessments, they're actually pretty low. But property taxes are high in Cook County. And that's because of the way we finance education in our state. We're number 50 in the United States, dead last for state funding for education. 2/3 of property taxes are for schools. And so in the city and in the rest of the county, we have to make up for that underfunding of the state by paying these levies for schools and for other services. Now, they oftentimes come to me as the assessor thinking that I was the one responsible for the high property taxes. Of course, what our assessments do is just divide up that bill that is presented by others. So it's really not the assessments that make property taxes high, but it's the levy. But if the assessments aren't done fairly, if some are paying less than their fair share and others are paying more than their fair share, then it can make the system even worse. And that's why we came in office. We came in office to fix the system and make sure that the system was working fairly and that everyone was paying their fair share. There's been a lot of research showing that a lot of folks have been over-assessed and probably paying more than they should have been.
So how do you determine for older properties that are being rehabbed and things like that, where you see older buildings that people are buying and then they look new? I mean, how do you determine? Does someone go around and check? I mean, how do you determine what's happening inside of properties?
Sure. Actually, we have a team of people who work in our office. They're called our field staff, and they go out and inspect properties. There are 1.8 million properties in Cook County. We have a hard-working staff that goes out and checks every building permit to see what new structure is there after a building permit has been put into place, and so that's how we keep track of it. We're trying to use more technology.
Like drones?
Drones, oblique imagery, like you see in Street View and Google. There are lots of amazing things that come from aerial photography, all of it. We can use all of that to track changes, to find discrepancies. The technology is creating more possibilities, and we do that. But it's a really good question about how do we do in our assessments, how do we take into account what's old and what's new? The key thing in the way we do our assessments is we're supposed to estimate what the market would pay for something. And if it's an older building that requires a lot of rehab, that doesn't have a lot of the fancy fixtures that a normal house would have, then it should be a lower assessed home than you'd expect it to be. And we need to take that into account in our work. And we try to do that both with the field work that we do, the technology we have, but also when people are appealing to our office, they can tell us about the condition of their home and show it to us. That helps us assess better and make sure the assessment's fair.
Great. Thank you for sharing that. So, when you were elected in office last year, you had a mandate from the voters to reform the assessor's office. What steps are you taking to do that thus far?
Well, we've been very busy. I'd put it into 4 categories: in people, processes, transparency, and technology. So on the people side, we brought in a really great group of experienced government reformers, people who'd worked in successful assessors' offices around the rest of the United States. We brought in someone to head our valuation group who had been a respected person running lending for a major local bank. And we brought in people who are really good at data. To create a whole new data science department. That's on the people side. We didn't hire anyone who's related to me, so that's good. Second thing we did is we put in place new processes. We put in place a ethics executive order that extends my commitment not to take campaign contributions from lawyers and appraisers who practice before our office. We put into place new rules that we've made public for the first time that raise the professional standards for people practicing before our office. When we take appeals now, they're done anonymously and blind. No one sees the name of a law firm that's representing someone, and we think that builds confidence that we're running a system where we're just making calls based on data and not based on the clout of people who might be bringing things to us. Also, the important process, we brought in an auditor. And we've brought in other new processes that make the system that we have more efficient, more electronic filing, and more of that will be coming this year. On the technology side, we put a new residential valuation model all out in the public for everyone to see. What we did is we have a new website coming into play in December. We're putting a new call center into place to provide better service, and we're using new databases so we can be more accurate. On the transparency side, we used to be one of the least transparent offices in the country. Now we're one of the most. We put our whole residential valuation model online. People can see how it works. People can see the different factors we take into account. They can see how it's being edited and changed in real time, and they can see the conversations that our programmers are having with each other about why we're doing it this way or the other way. And we also created a visitor's log so people can see who's coming to visit the assessor. And we know sometimes there have been lots of stories about favoritism and unfairness at the office, and we think it's a really important commitment to make to people to say that, hey, we're above board, we're putting all the visitors who are coming to our office out in the public, just like they used to do at the White House under President Obama.
Wow, that's a lot in 1 year.
In 1 year, and we have a lot more to come. We're having new applications where people can see parcel by parcel things that have been given vacancy treatment, so they can see which buildings on the block are being given vacancy but maybe might not actually be vacant. We have an annual report we'll be publishing, and we're doing a lot of hiring now. We're really proud of the work that we're doing on training our staff, and we think it's going to be good things ahead in the next year.
Wonderful, thank you. Again, you're watching CAN TV, and we have on this Wednesday evening Cook County Assessor. Feel free to call us at 312-738-1060. Sounds like a lot can go down when you own your own property here in Cook County. The assessment system makes it more fair and equitable for everyone. So what help, if any, will you from Springfield do to overhaul the system even more? Do you foresee the legislator?
Yeah, sure. So we spent a lot of time down in Springfield this year. We got an important bill passed that really sort of leads the way in showing how we can make better use of data to serve people who live in Cook County better. For the longest time, seniors in Chicago and in Cook County have had to recertify every year that they're still over 65, which is pretty ridiculous.
Yeah.
We're not getting any younger, right? But this was a great imposition on more than 500,000 seniors. We went to the leadership down in Springfield and said, hey, there's technology out there that lets us track if someone has died or they've moved, and in that case they would have to reapply for the senior exemption, but otherwise we should allow this to automatically renew. So starting next year, I'm proud to say, the senior exemption will automatically renew and save people the ritual of having to file this every year. It will make our office more efficient too. In January, we've had to open thousands of pieces of mail every day. Things can get lost. We expect our office will be much more efficient after this. And another important bill we're working on in Springfield is Senate Bill 1379, the Data Modernization Bill. And this will give us better data on commercial properties, so everyone can be confident that commercial properties are being assessed fairly and residential homeowners are only paying their fair share. And we have the support from Mayor Lightfoot, the county board, President Preckwinkle, many different organizations, not only in commercial real estate, but also the Illinois Association of School Boards and Labor. The bill passed out of the Senate by a bipartisan supermajority. It's now in the House. We have 44 sponsors and co-sponsors. We've been picking up a lot since the end of the session. The bill needs a vote. We have the votes to pass it. We're asking the House to pass the bill. This will be really good for homeowners, doesn't cost the state anything. It's the most important thing we can do to reform our property tax system for homeowners. People out there, viewers, should go and call your state representative, ask them to be called for a vote, thank them if they're a co-sponsor on the bill, ask them if they're a co-sponsor, but otherwise encourage them to support it, because this is the most important thing that folks in Springfield can do to reform what we know has been a broken assessment system.
Wonderful, thank you. You seem to know a lot about the county. Would you like to share with us a little bit? What county are you from? Or?
Well, I'm Chicago born and bred, so I grew up in Hyde Park. My dad was a professor at the University of Chicago. He was there for 52 years, retired a couple years ago. He lives in Montgomery Place now on the lake in Hyde Park. But I grew up at 53rd and Greenwood. I went to Kenwood Academy. My mom was active in the community. She passed in 2018, but she was the one who got me interested in politics. And then I live in Oak Park now, and I've worked here for a long time. I used to be in the private sector, but I'm a person who loves neighborhoods and maps and buildings, and so for a person who loves that, plus valuation and stewardship, the assessor's office is a great place to work in.
Thank you. So, you're also hoping to overhaul the Cook County properties that are assessed. And what's the biggest difference between your assessor and the way you've shared a lot, the way that you're assessing versus it seems like you've already told us a lot more, but is there anything that you left out?
Well, the values that we're bringing that are really important, that we know Cook County residents expect, is ethics, fairness, and transparency in the office. A lot of people are really confused by how our property tax system works, but actually they have a pretty good idea of what was wrong with it before, that they couldn't understand how they were assessed. They suspected they were not being treated fairly. They'd heard stories about favoritism, structural unfairness, structural racism, where the communities that were paying some of the highest rates tended to be black and brown communities hit by the housing crisis. And that's why we were brought into office to change that. And so what we've done is made sure our assessments are following the law of this state to be based on market value and give no favor to anyone. Just follow the law as our North Star. We should look at market prices to do our assessments, and that is a very simple mandate I give to my employees. And the key for us to succeed is to make sure that we don't get knocked off our game by people trying to use favoritism or influence to distort the system in their favor. I think a really key thing that I'd like the viewers to know and average Chicagoans to know is that our assessments are interconnected in Illinois. Your assessment alone doesn't have much meaning, but it's very meaningful in the context of others. The rate that you pay on your home depends on how other people are assessed, all kinds of properties. So even if you don't own a commercial property, as a residential homeowner, you have a great interest in knowing that your assessor is assessing everyone fairly and giving no favor to anyone. And so that's really what we've tried to focus in on and demonstrate that stewardship, demonstrate a willingness to get assessments accurate the first time. You know, in a lot of the country, people expect their assessor to get it right the first time, and they don't feel like they need to appeal. We know it'll take a while to get to that point, but you know, folks who live in Washington State, where Seattle is, the assessor there was telling me that they have 600,000 parcels, only about 3,000, 5,000 appeals per year. We did 5,000 appeals on Friday at our office for our 1.8 million parcels. We can't solve and fix our system through more appeals. We need to really focus on getting it right the first time and building people's confidence. So this has been a great year, and we'll be doing a lot more in the future too.
Great, great. Now, if someone wanted to access your website, what can you, let's see if we can bring up, can you tell me?
Sure. What you do is you go to cookcountyassessor.com. And at our website, you can do a great variety of things. Now here we have the website as it appears now, but starting in December, we will have a whole new website that will be really intuitive to use. I think a lot of viewers will be interested in one. They want to see how their property is assessed. And you can do that by going to search, the search tab, and then go into property. And then you can put in your address. If you type in your address, then you'd see how your property is assessed. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to type in my home here. I live in Oak Park. And then you will be able to see a history of how it's assessed. You'll even see a picture that's pretty old, actually. But
Oh, there it is in the corner, right?
yeah, so
okay.
there it is. And you'd be able to see all of these. So we're trying to update our pictures. The picture's more than 10 years old now, so
Okay.
this is one of the priorities that we have.
Uh-huh.
And then you can see the different ways that it's assessed.
Okay.
Also, on the website, what you can do is if you want to do an appeal, you can go and look to all the different ways to do appeals. We have different forms and calendars. You can see if the appeal window is open. And we're really excited about how the new website will look.
Okay. So
and
now, how
we're
does
very
senior? You
excited.
said something about the seniors. So, well, some seniors are not internet savvy like this.
Sure.
So, what kind of assistance do they?
Well, in addition to using the website, we have satellite offices. But first of all, our office is downtown in City Hall on the 3rd floor.
Okay.
And people should avail themselves of that because we have a really friendly, hardworking, knowledgeable
Okay.
staff.
Okay.
We also have satellite offices in Markham, Skokie, and Bridgeview. And also we're out in the community. We do many workshops in your neighborhood, and you can call and check to see when we'll be nearby soon. You can also call your local alderman or legislator. They'll also be able to tell you. And what seniors and average citizens should do to see if they're getting all the exemptions that they deserve. Every senior who's over 65 has a right to the senior exemption. If their income is under $65,000 a year, they can also have the senior freeze, which is a very valuable exemption. And every homeowner has the right to the homeowner's exemption, and they should make sure they have it. And if they don't, you can look back 4 years and get refunded those years that you didn't have those exemptions, and you get cash back for the amount of property tax you overpaid.
Okay, now that's good information to know. So we have a few other questions for you. Mayor Lightfoot recently announced that the city is facing a $838 million budget shortfall, and that's nothing including the raising of property taxes is off the table. So how would you feel about the tax increase impacting the reforms, and would you like to make the county assessment system?
Well, I know that Mayor Lightfoot has been working really hard with her administration in the city to avoid having to raise property taxes. And in Springfield, there are things that they can do to work with the city to get property taxes so that the city doesn't have to raise property taxes as a last resort. So I know this is a story that doesn't have an ending yet. And I know all of us Chicagoans are looking to Springfield to make sure that they're helping Chicago to succeed and meet these deficits that, after all, our new mayor just inherited from the previous administration. I know that I and the mayor believe that if you are asking people to pay more in property taxes, you need to have confidence that our assessment system is fair, and it's being run transparently, and it's being run ethically. And so in the assessor's office, that's what we try to do. We are trying to deliver on the reform of our assessment system, and then if people are being asked to be paying more by the city, by the county, by the other taxing bodies, that at least they can have a confidence that levy is being distributed fairly amongst us. And so this is a story that's working. Now, it will take a couple years for our assessments to unfold. We assess 1/3 of the county at a time. We're doing the north suburbs now. We do the south suburbs next year, and we do Chicago in 2021. And I know Mayor Lightfoot is mindful of the fact that a lot of the assessments in Chicago that are the assessments that are in place in Chicago were done by the previous administration, have some problems, and that's another reason why I know she doesn't want to have to raise property taxes.
You're watching Political Forum here on Wednesday. This is a community service TV of CAN TV, and I'm Carolyn Day, a board member here at CAN TV, and you're joining us today with the Cook County Assessor. You can feel free to call us in at any time at 312-738-1060. So we only just have a few minutes left. So is there anything you'd like to share with us that you've not shared that you think that we need to know?
Well, I think, I mentioned that we assess the county 1/3 at a time. So our reforms will take 4 years to unfold because the state tells us which parts of the county we can assess. So we're assessing the north third right now. Next year is the south third, the south suburbs. Chicago's 2021. But each year we do the assessment. It only affects people's taxes the following year. And I know a lot of Chicagoans felt higher property tax bills this year. I just remind them that that reflects the assessment was done by the previous administration. We are hard at work in our assessor's office to be ready for Chicago in 2021, and our assessments will affect people's tax bill in 2022. There are other things we're doing in the meantime. We want to make sure everyone's getting their exemptions. We're really pleased the senior exemption automatically renews now. We're also doing important work to crack down on the abuse of vacancy treatment by the assessor's office. So we are changing our policies on vacancy to be more fairly, so we're not incentivizing vacancy. We know this is a big concern that many neighborhoods have, and we know we can be doing better with that, and we're really focused on that.
Thank you. I think it's clear that people understand, and this has been very educational, the difference between the assessor's office, the tax, where you go to pay your taxes, and the recorder of deeds.
Yes, that's right.
But you're all located in the same building?
We're all located in the same building, so there's several different offices, and you didn't mention the county clerk,
There we go.
which calculates the rates.
Okay.
So basically what we do is, in our office, is figure out the assessments, and we spread the levies that are done by the city and the CPS and Cook County across our assessments, and then the clerk calculates the rate, and then the treasurer sends you the bill.
Well, we thank you for joining us this evening. This has been Political Forum, and it's been brought to you as a community service by CAN TV. We ask that you join us every Wednesday at 7 p.m. and have a good night.
Thank you, Carol. Appreciate it.